Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If this is your first time with us, welcome. We're all excited you're here today for another episode of Cooking Connected. My name is Jordan. Joining me today is one of our SNAP-Ed educators, Anna Snellchase. Today, we are going to be making a delicious, healthy recipe, but as you all know, Cooking Matters is a collaboration between Share Our Strengths Cooking Matters program and the University of Minnesota Extension. Cooking Matters classes are in-person or online nutrition-based cooking classes that meet once a week for a total of 2 hours for a total of 6 weeks. Classes feature a nutrition educator and a local chef that work together to teach our participants about nutrition and a little bit about how to make a healthy, delicious, affordable meal. So as I said, we're going to be following that similar format today. I will be our nutrition educator and Anna will be our chef. Today we're going to be making a minestrone soup. We'd like to thank the creators of today's recipe. This is from foodhero.com. So if you'd like to check out the recipe, go ahead and check out the description box of the video. It should also be in the live chat as well. Just like every week, we do have another survey for you all to take. We love hearing from our viewers. So we do ask that you take this survey. So after this video, if you get a chance, please take that survey. You will need a program code, which again is located in the description box of our video, as well as the link to our survey. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with today's recipe. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Anna.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. As Jordan mentioned, we are making minestrone soup today. And this is an Italian soup, and primarily with just a lot of veggies. So, you know, if you were making this in Minnesota in the summer, you would use a lot of seasonal veggies. But since it's now cold here, we just have a variety of veggies from the store. And I love making soup because it really, all the ingredients just go in the pot, and it can, you know, if it's just you, it can last you the entire week. So I think all of the ingredients today were roughly like $13, $14. So if you think about how many servings you're going to get out of this soup, the price per serving is really low. So a really great affordable meal and packed with nutrients. So as Jordan mentioned, this recipe is from Food Hero. So you can look that up and follow along. The first thing we're going to do is finish cutting the veggies that will go in first. So behind me, I have a pot heating up with some oil in it, and we are going to put in celery, carrots, and onion first. So I got a head start, but we'll finish here just to demonstrate how we cut some of these veggies. With soup, I mean, it's really up to you, kind of the size of the veggies that you want. If you like a chunky soup, you can cut your veggies a little bit bigger, but if you prefer kind of more bite-sized things, you can cut veggies bigger.
Soups are great too, because if you are, I mean, if you, in the summertime, if you're have vegetables and from the farmer's market and those are starting to go bad, you can throw them into a soup. In the winter time, you can use, you know, canned veggies or frozen veggies in your soups a lot of times. So it's really versatile. And of course, the weather is getting a little cold now, so it's always nice to have a nice warm meal.
Yes. Soup is like one of my favorite ways to reduce any food waste, just because you can kind of throw whatever you have on hand in it, especially this recipe where the ingredients are really flexible.
I don't believe this recipe has meat in it, correct? It's all, okay, yeah. I mean, you can.
That's correct. You can, in minestrone soup, you can add meat. I feel like some like ground Italian sausage would be really tasty in this. But we are using some kidney beans today to serve as our protein.
Just thinking, with the holidays coming up, there might be some leftover turkey in some households. I would definitely throw turkey into this soup.
That is a great idea.
course, there's always the good old fashioned turkey noodle soup as well. I believe we did that last year on Cooking Connected. So if you're interested in finding a turkey noodle soup, go ahead and check back in the archives of Cooking Connected and see some of our other videos.
All right, so I have finished chopping the first round of veggies, and if you're following along on the recipe, you will see that we'll heat them until the onions are soft. So those will be the first to get soft out of the carrots and celery. So we will do that. All right. I'm going to give this a little bit of a stir to make sure everything is covered in the oil that I have heated up in here. All right. So we'll give that just a few minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to look at step 2, which is adding the potato, tomatoes, broth, beans, and basil. So I'm going to finish cutting our potato. So today we're just using like a white potato. I think sweet potato would be really good in here too. Kind of whatever you like. And on the recipe, you'll see that it says to peel the potato. I really like the skin of a potato, so I generally leave it on, but that is totally a personal preference.
Absolutely. And if you were to remove the skin, you can also use that in like a broth. I know like a lot of people like to save that skin onto their potatoes. They'll throw it in the freezer, and once they have a full bag of veggie scraps, so that can be like carrot tops, onion skins, garlic skins, potato peelings, they just throw it in a pot with water and maybe even some type of like chicken bones or something like that, and you can make a veggie broth or a chicken broth out of that. Another video on Cooking Connected that we did a little while back too, so. Plus, I feel like homemade broth, it always tastes amazing. You can add your own seasonings to it too, and it kind of reduces the salt, which is really nice.
Yes. Yes, today we are using a container of broth, but for ease. But if you do have the opportunity to make your own broth, that is a great option. All right, so I have my potatoes chopped. I'm gonna give this a stir. All right. And our onions are already looking a little more translucent or kind of see-through, so that's a sign that they are cooking. So I'm going to go ahead and go to step 2 and add the potatoes. And then along with that, we have to add our diced tomatoes. So I have just a can here, diced tomatoes. So I'll go ahead and add that.
And if you can get the no salt added options, that's always a great option to get. But if it's, if the regular salt is on sale, you can grab those as well.
Yes. And then we also have our broth. So I'll go ahead and add that. And today we have some beef broth. You could also use just plain vegetable broth if you don't want that meat flavor in here.
Yeah, it's very easy throw together recipe, throwing it all in one pot. I love that idea with soups as well. It's very nice.
And so the recipe calls for 3.5 cups of broth. These containers that you find at the store, they're pretty much no matter what brand, they're all 4 cups. So I did just add the whole thing. So a half cup more than what the recipe calls for, but anything that'll just stretch your soup a little bit longer. All right, and then we have our beans, and today we have some kidney beans. That's another thing that minestrone soup usually always has is beans. That's kind of what helps define it. You could do other kinds of beans though as well if you like. I think like garbanzo beans would be really good in here too.
Our beans today are serving as a protein, as Anna had said before, but you can add other proteins to this if you decide you'd want to do that. I think that Italian sausage would be phenomenal.
And then we need some seasoning before we cover the soup and let it simmer for a little bit. So the recipe calls for basil. Just because I like a very seasoned soup, I'm going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning as well, just to get like some oregano, some thyme, those classic Italian seasonings also in there. So seasoning, another thing you can kind of add to your liking.
I would probably add garlic in as well because I'm obsessed with garlic, but you know.
Yes.
It's just such a versatile recipe. We always like to remind people at Cooking Matters, recipes are guidelines. So this is a really great guideline that you can follow to make your own soup, but you can really customize it to your family's needs or wants. For instance, my family's not a huge fan of celery, so we'd probably leave the celery out. But you can add other veggies in there. A lot of different veggies would be great options. And again, you can use fresh, canned, frozen. And in the wintertime, especially in Minnesota, that canned and frozen are really great options when fresh maybe isn't so readily available or super expensive.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm with you on the celery thing. It's not my favorite, but it does add a lot of great flavor to soups like this. In the past, I've subbed like celery for a green pepper. I know it's a little bit of a different, flavor, but you get that green, kind of like crunchy vegetable in there still. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we have everything in the pot for now. We're gonna let it simmer for a little bit. So I turned up the heat. And let's see.
The best thing about soups too, when you throw it together in the pot, you can kind of let it simmer later for a long time. So let those flavors meld together. So maybe you can just simmer it on low if you're really busy. Maybe you're doing some cleaning around the house, or you got some kiddos running around that you maybe don't need to focus on a meal so much. So soup's a really great option for those busy nights. You just throw it all in the pot, let it simmer, and then usually by the time it's done, you can kind of eat whenever, which is really nice about recipes like this.
Yeah, and soup generally freezes really well too. So like this makes quite a bit. So if you're not going to eat it all, putting it in the freezer is always a good option.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so while we let that simmer, we'll talk about what else we have. Another thing with minestrone soup is there's usually like a pasta or a rice in it. So getting that grain component of our meal. We have some elbow macaroni today that we'll be using. However, I think kind of any type of pasta that you have on hand would be good in here. And same with rice. So.
And of course, you can always use a whole wheat option. A lot of times I find that elbow macaroni is kind of difficult to find in a whole wheat option. Every once in a while you can find it. So if you do pick it up, it's really great. But like Anna said, really any type of pasta, a whole wheat option is really great to get those whole grains in there.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences with the elbow macaroni, but I always seem to find like a whole wheat penne noodle, and I feel like that would be really good in here as well. Yeah, so we'll have this ready to go in a minute. Oh, and we're only gonna do a half a cup of macaroni, so I'm gonna measure that out.
Anna, would now be a good time for a little nutrition education?
Yeah.
So today we're actually going to talk a little bit about portion sizes, more specifically serving sizes when it comes to fruits and vegetables. So we've talked a lot about portions in the past. Looking at your nutrition facts is very important. At the top of your nutrition facts, you can usually see portion sizes. The reason why that's so important to check is because one container of a product might not be the portion size, which can be really misleading. So it's really important to check on the top of your nutrition facts what portion size the product is. So maybe if you have like a can of soda or like a big thing of soda, it might be 3 or 4 servings, but you drink the whole bottle. So you'd have to multiply that entire nutrition facts, all those numbers on the nutrition facts, by the amount of servings to figure out what you just consumed. So it's always really important to check your portion sizes. But today we're going to talk about serving sizes when it comes to fruits and vegetables, because I don't know about you, but sometimes that can be really confusing to me. You hear a lot that maybe you should be consuming about 4 to 5 fruits and vegetables per day. Healthy Americans, the guidelines for Healthy Americans recommends following a dietary pattern that's made up of nutrient dense foods. So that includes whole fruits, whole vegetables, grains, dairy, and oil is what they recommend. But of course, a lot of other sources recommend about 4 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. So what exactly does that mean? What does that look like? That can be a little confusing sometimes. So we're going to kind of go over some easy ways that you can determine what is a serving of fruits or vegetables. So looking specifically at fruits, 1 medium apple would be 1 serving of fruit. So that is about the size of your fist. So if you have a medium fruit, it's going to be about the size of your fist, will be 1 serving of that fruit. For fresh, canned, and frozen items for fruits, about 1/2 cup will look like a serving size. So 1/2 cup can actually look like your palm cupped like this. This is about 1/2 cup in here. So that is one way to tell. So like if you have cut up fresh strawberries, about 1/2 cup is going to be about your palm cupped. Same with frozen or canned items. There are different things to look for, of course, in frozen or canned. If you have a canned item, make sure with fruits, they are canned in 100% whole juice or whole juice. Yeah, 100% juice. There we go. And not in a heavy syrup, because the heavy syrup is made of a lot of sugar that we don't really need. Every once in a while, you can rinse those off, but it's always a good idea to get it in the whole juice if it's available to you. If not, another good option is a light syrup. That's kind of your next best option after that. And then same thing with frozen. Sometimes frozen will come in a like sugar syrup. So a lot of times like strawberries, especially if they're in those Tupperware containers in the frozen section, they a lot of times come in like a sugar syrup. So it's always a good idea to look in for stuff that isn't in a sugar syrup. So again, for fresh, canned, and frozen, about 1/2 cup is going to be a serving size for fruit. So again, that's going to be about the size of your hand cupped like this. For dried, so we're thinking like dried cranberries or raisins, it's going to be about 1/4 cup. So that's going to be half of this cupped palm here. And then let's see here, for vegetables, raw leafy vegetables or raw leafy greens is going to be about 1 cup is a serving. So again, that's going to be about the size of your fist. It's always a good idea. About 1 cup is going to be about the size of your fist. Same thing with the fresh, canned, and frozen for vegetables. About 1/2 cup is going to be a serving. So again, cut up vegetables that are fresh, canned and frozen, like canned green beans. Again, we're looking for low sodium options, or no salt added options are always really great options to buy. For frozen, a lot of times for vegetables, those may come in like a certain type of like cheese sauce or some types of sauce that contains a lot of sodium. So it's always a good idea to look for frozen items that aren't in some type of sauce. But again, those items are going to be for fresh, canned, and frozen vegetables. About 1/2 cup will be a serving size, which is your palm cupped like this. And then finally for like vegetable juices, again, that's going to be 1/2 cup too. So thinking about all of these different things, if you're really interested in serving sizes, there's a couple of fun ways that you can tell what a serving size looks like. So 2 cups will look like your hands fit together like this. So this is about 2 cups. So of some type of product. So if that's something that you're looking for, this is a good way to tell. For a 1 cup or 8 ounce equivalent, again, it's going to be the size of your fist. That's always a good one to remember. A general rule of thumb about the size of your fist is going to be about a cup or 8 ounces. Half cup is always going to be your hand cupped like this. So that's a good way to tell for a half cup. 3 ounces is about the size of your palm. So that's always a good one to remember, especially with like proteins or stuff like that. A lot of times they say like a deck of cards is about what you should be consuming for protein. And then let's see here, a tablespoon is going to be about the size of your thumb. And then a teaspoon is going to be about the size of your pointer finger. So those are just some general rule of thumbs. Of course, they're not perfect, but they're just good things to kind of judge your portion sizes. But again, a general good rule of thumb to always remember is the size of your fist is always going to be about a cup or an 8 ounce equivalent. So with that, that's all the nutrition education I have today. How's the soup looking, Anna?
Looks good and smells maybe even better. I think adding a little extra seasoning was a good choice. I love the like having the visuals of, you know, using your hand for how much the serving size is, because sometimes it can be so hard to know, like if when you're looking at my plate and like the recommended amounts, or even at like a nutrition facts label when it talks about serving size, like these numbers, it's hard to visualize what they look like. So I like the tips of how to determine roughly what a serving size is.
Absolutely. I always was confused about, well, what does a serving look like in fruits and vegetables? Because all of them are shaped differently. And
Right.
so you're like, okay, how does this work? So it is very good to have those tools in your tool belt when you are looking for serving sizes.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So the soup has been simmering for a while. So we're going to add our last 2 ingredients, which are zucchini and the macaroni noodles. Zucchini, if you use zucchini in soup, is generally the last thing that you add because there's a lot of water in it and it just cooks very quickly. So that's why we're waiting to add this last. The recipe calls for 2 zucchini. So I have those all chopped up here. So I'm going to add all of these noodles. And so like with this soup recipe, having the serving size is a cup. And I think you would almost certainly get 1 serving of vegetables by having just a cup of this soup. So great way to get those servings in.
Good way to sneak in more vegetables. We can do a quick My Plate recap while we're waiting for that to simmer. So we talk about My Plate all the time. That's a great way to follow a healthy eating pattern. So My Plate suggests that half of your plate looks like fruits and vegetables. Then we have about a quarter of our plate protein and about a quarter of our plate is grains. They suggest that for our grains, at least half of our grains should be whole grains that we're consuming. Protein should be lean proteins, so like chickens, turkeys, things like that. And then dairy, some type of low-fat dairy, so like a glass of milk, of skim milk, or maybe some yogurt, something like that. So it's really important that we're eating from all 5 food groups at every meal. So for this meal, if we were to have our minestrone soup, let's see here, we've got our grain with our elbow macaroni. We have obviously a lot of vegetables in there, so we're doing really good with our veggies. We have protein from the beans. We don't have any fruit right now. And let's see here, we don't have any dairy either. So a way that you could make up for those, if you're eating a meal, you could have a serving of fruit. So maybe like a medium-sized apple. Again, that's going to be about the size of your fist. That'll be 1 serving of fruit. You can also do an 8 ounce glass of milk, or again, a yogurt to add in and get all 5 food groups. Of course, you can also add those in during snacks as well. So that's something that I like to do, especially for like breakfast. It's really difficult to get in certain food groups and for breakfast for me. So if I eat a lot of fruits and dairy and grains in the morning, I will, and maybe even some protein in the morning. I like to add peanut butter to a lot of things. I will have my vegetables for a snack. So maybe like some hummus with some veggies or something like that as a snack. So that's a good way to kind of make up for anything that you're missing during the day if you are eating from most of the food groups, but you're missing one of the food groups in your meal. So. Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with that. And I feel like maybe some Parmesan cheese could be good on top of the soup to get in that dairy also. Yeah.
I would definitely do probably like a parfait on the side. You can add like blueberries, maybe add a few more grains.
Yes.
So you could definitely be creative with it. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we have everything in. If you're following along on the recipe, at the very end, it says that you can taste and season it with salt and pepper to your liking. So that's really a personal preference. I did a half teaspoon of each, kind of following the recommended seasoning amounts earlier in the recipe. So this will cook for a few more minutes and then we'll be all good to go.
And if you want to, you could show us what the soup looks like, and we can post a picture later on of what the finished product will look like after Cooking Connected. So please make sure that you tune back in to our Facebook page and check out what the finished product looks like.
I'm gonna bring us over here.
Yum.
Here. It seriously smells so good. Yeah, and not only is it a lot of veggies in here, but a lot of different color vegetables, which is important too, as different colors provide different nutrients. So
absolutely. So again, she's going to let that simmer for a while. This is, again, a great meal if you don't, kind of low maintenance. You can set it on the stove and let it simmer for a little while and let those flavors meld together. So again, look out on our Facebook for that finished product picture. We will post that. But with that, thank you so much for attending today's Cooking Connected. We hope to see you again. We will do another Cooking Connected the next Thursday at 2 p.m. So same time, same place. We hope to see you all again. And of course, if you do have time, please don't forget to take our survey. The link to the survey as well as the program code will be down below in the description box of our video. So also, if you do make this recipe, we'd love to see some pictures of what you guys are making, what changes you'd make, things like that. So please feel free to comment below. That would be great. So thank you all so much again for attending. We hope to see you again next week. Thank you.
Thank you.